Hello and welcome back to our 6 simple strategies, intentions for surviving COVID-19 and beyond. I've added the beyond phase because we are reopening now into a new normal. So many of our states, our countries are opening up and taking new steps towards a new normal. And as I've shared with you, honestly, that makes me quite nervous, quite anxious, and I do probably have more fear now than when this began because there's more knowledge and more understanding as to the effects and the affects of COVID-19. So I'm taking it seriously. I'm sure you are as well, and I'm trying to follow the rules and stay safe. So these intentions that I created prior pandemic are even more powerful in my own life now. And I pray and hope that they give you some strong footing upon which to stand as we walk into this new normal. Let's just review the first 4. Calm your nervous system. I chose that strategically because we want to have sound mental health. That's what sanity means. To be able to think and make decisions from a rational mindset. And we really want to move through our life being able to operate from our rational mind, our logical mind, our clear thinking, our sound mental state. So at the root of all that is our nervous system. This magnificent system God created to run the show, we shall say, in our body. And if I've learned anything in my life at age 60, it is that I have moved through life from a very highly charged nervous system. So I've spent a great many of my decades trying to find ways to move through life from a balanced, stable place. So I call back to you things that I've learned, things that I've gained wisdom on to help you understand, first and foremost, how vital it is to be able to calm your nervous system and be able to have it stabilized so that you can live your life not out of the amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn state, but from a beautiful parasympathetic state, which means we are at rest and digest, they call it. So we can move through a stable position. Second was open your heart to new daily rhythms and rituals. Open your heart, mind, soul, and body to new ways of doing things. What in your life isn't working for you anymore? What habits aren't working? What patterns aren't working? We've been given almost 10 weeks now this opportunity, a mixed bag, I'm sure, of all of our disordered attachments, all of our trappings have been taken away. You know, as I've said this as well. It's really the first time in my life I feel like I've had some personal freedoms taken away. You can't go to the grocery store more than this or that, do this or that. You know, I've had to follow some rules that have been imposed on my freedom. So what's not working for you? That's what we asked in our intention too. This is a time, might not be convenient at all, where you're seeing some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of your nature, your character, and you're having to face it because there's nowhere else to go. Our third intention is voice your needs clearly and compassionately. I have gotten a lot of feedback on this third intention, which indicates to me that we need some more conversations about finding our voice and using our voice clearly and compassionately. Because when we find our voice, and in the Stronger Everyday community, you know that we call that we equate voice with our value, worth, and dignity. So when I say find your voice, it means know who you are. Know your identity in Christ. Know who You are in your essence. And if you need help in that category, please, please run on over, step on over, hop on over to JanelleReardon.com, my website, and subscribe to our community so that you can get weekly e-newsletters, blogs, information, help, resources, tools, YouTube videos. You can get them first so that you can continue your growth pattern post-pandemic, so that you can continue to develop and understand your true self. If you need more information on that, Speak Healing Words, the podcast there's so much there, so much content there for you that you can listen to while you're walking or going on a trip or just cleaning the house. A lot of times I put a podcast in and I do my daily chores. So the podcast is a tremendous resource for you. Please subscribe to it right now. You can do all that on the website. So how do we voice our needs clearly? I suggested you look at nonviolent communication, which is a powerful relational tool to learn how to use our words, to learn how to say what we need, what we mean, instead of having misplaced expectations on those in our sphere of influence that they can read our mind or that they can just know what we need without us asking. That's a ridiculous expectation. So that book is by Oren J. Sofer, and it's a fabulous book. It's called Say What You Mean. Our fourth intention was initiate a hushing hour. One of the phrases that came out during the pandemic was, oh, it's not rush hour, it's hush hour. And I hopped all over that. I love that. So we talk all about how to implement the contemplative practices into a new rhythm in our life. So we joined intention 2 and 4, and how we can have some silence, some stillness, some solitude in our lives so that we lead a more meaningful life, a life that is eudaimonia, the pursuit of meaning and purpose and passion. So today, that all of those intentions are building blocks, they're stepping stones to get us to today's intention, which is a lot of fun. And as someone who has been a dancer most of her life, this intention is to dance in the rain. Very long introduction, I know. And our intention for this, our proclamation, our intention is, I mindfully notice the simple beauty along my path today. I notice. I am wide awake. I am fully aware. One of my favorite books to teach when I was a literature and writing teacher was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And the protagonist, the beautiful lead character, Mary, she discovers this awful, overgrown secret garden that is in really bad shape when she comes to Misselthwaite Manor. And through the book, the garden really becomes a metaphor for transformation and for true metanoia, as we say in the Greek, true transformation, true change, like a caterpillar inside of the cocoon. And it's just one of my favorite stories. And she shares in the beginning how she had heard lots of fairy tales in her life. And in one of the fairy tales, she reads that, the main character goes to sleep for 100 years. Sleeping Beauty, right? And she says, oh, I would never want to do that. I want to live a wide awake life. I'm becoming wider awake every day of my life. Well, friends, I want you to become wider awake every day of your life post-pandemic. I want to live my life wide awake. I don't want to sleepwalk, which the beautiful Philena Hertz. I'll put that link over on strongereveryday.com so you can see her beautiful work on mindful silence. And she talks about how we sleepwalk through life. I don't want to do that. I don't want anyone in my sphere of influence to sleepwalk through life. We do not know how many days we have left. We do not know how many hours we have left. You know, my mother on this past Mother's Day, who's 92, said to me, before I left, we got to see each other through the screen porch of her assisted living because of COVID. And it was a very poignant, very difficult. She's like, I feel like I'm in prison. But the last thing she said to me was, you know, I'm not going to be here next year. So you better just, you know, this is it. And I was like, I'm sure that's a real thought at 92. It's a real thought at 60. And I said to her, Mom, I may not be here next year. So let's both relish this beautiful opportunity and appreciate one another and this moment right here that we have. That's called mindfulness, right? So mindfulness is just paying attention to what is in this moment. Like I just picked up my favorite pen. It's a Faber-Castell, but you cannot get it in the States. I have tried. It's a challenge. If you can find this for me in the States, I will give you a prize. But my daughter, who lives in Uruguay, I found it when I was there visiting her. And she sent me 11 or 12 for, I don't know, my birthday. I can't even remember when she sent them. Valentine's Day, one of the holidays. And I just love them so much. And because I'm a writer and I just love pens, and it's just a really smooth pen. So I feel it when it's in my hand. When I'm writing, I notice how lovely it writes, and it just brings my attention right here, right now. So I want to read just a little bit of an excerpt from an article I found published by Penn State. Love, actually. Americans agree on what makes people feel the love. What makes life meaningful might be another question we could add here. What makes life worth getting up every day? And listen, I understand that sometimes life is so hard. And I have made it a habit in my own life to study biographies of great men and women that I long to imitate. I read the Word of God and I try to imitate the beautiful men and women that are written about in the Bible. I try to imitate Christ. I try to look at how he walked through the earth and be like him. That to me is authentic faith. That is what real true religion is all about. It's about emanating from my life light and love like Jesus, my Savior, did when he walked on the earth. And he loved people. And he spoke healing words to people. And life. He gave people life. A life that was based on love and meaning and beauty. And so they write, Americans may disagree on many things, but love might not be one of them. According to researchers, people in the U.S. largely agree about what makes them feel loved, which is our deepest need in life, is to know that we're loved. Now, if you know anything about the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 2, a social 2, and I absolutely need to feel loved. And I've done so many things throughout my life to find that love, from external disordered attachments, that in the end of the day, no matter what, I still wouldn't feel loved. But in doing my heart work, by working my growth plan, by having counsel, and by loving and praying to God to help me, I have been able to come home to myself. That's called embodiment. And live in my being and love myself. And it's just such an amazing, beautiful place to find in life. Coming to a general consensus that it may be small gestures that matter most. Small gestures that matter most, like dancing in the rain. In a study, researchers found that small, non-romantic gestures, like someone showing compassion or snuggling with a child, topped the list of what makes people feel loved. Meanwhile, controlling behaviors, like someone wanting to know where they were at all times, were seen as the least loving. Now, this week on the podcast, I'm going to be extending that piece of this conversation here today and talking about autonomy and interdependence and how critical those two things are to having meaningful relationships within our family and in the hallways of our home. So researcher Heshmati, a postdoctoral research scholar who is working with Zita Orovich in Penn State's College of Health and Human Development, shared and published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships these words: "Whether we feel loved or not plays an important role in how we feel from day to day." Okay, I'm going to read that again. Whether we feel loved or not, whether we feel loved or not, plays an important role in how we feel from day to day. Might we add how we wake up in the day, how we lay our head on the pillow at night. We were curious about whether the majority of Americans could agree about what makes people feel loved on a daily basis, or if it was a more personal thing. Our results show that people do agree, and the top scenarios that came back weren't necessarily romantic. So it is possible for people to feel loved in simple, everyday scenarios. It doesn't have to be over-the-top gestures. Flip the page. The researchers recruited 495 American adults to answer a questionnaire about whether or not they thought most people would feel loved in 60 different scenarios. The situations included positive actions, like being greeted by a pet; neutral scenarios, like feeling close to nature; and negative situations, like someone acting possessive. After gathering the data, the researchers analyzed it with a cultural consensus model, a framework for measuring the beliefs of a culture. Heshmati said that while participants disagreed on some items, there was a near even split, for example, on whether someone giving you positive feedback on the internet was loving or not. Someone giving you positive feedback, there was a near even split, for example, on whether someone giving you positive feedback on the internet was loving or not. There were many instances where the participants agreed. We found that behavioral actions, rather than purely verbal expressions, triggered more consensus as indicators of love. And that's what I wanted to get to today in our dance in the rain intention. For example, more people agreed that a child snuggling with them was more loving than someone saying, "I love you." Now, this is going to go in connection with our implicit memory and our deep sense here, our sensory imagery details. Oh, I love this. Continues, if someone wants to know where you are at all times or acts controlling, those actions are not loving to us. This could be a cultural difference, though. There's research showing that in more communal societies, these types of controlling behaviors may be seen as affection. But here in the States, in America, we don't see it as loving. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, and I'll put this article link on our Stronger Everyday Facebook private page. But those small gestures are going to make all the difference in our mental health state. They're going to make all the difference to our sanity, especially now during a global pandemic or in a crisis. I know myself, from 2010 to really 2018, between my mother's health, my daughter's health, lots of things, I spent a lot of time in hospitals, waiting rooms, surgical waiting rooms, ICU units, And I know for a fact it was the small gestures, a friend bringing me 2 blueberry muffins when I really didn't feel like having visitors, when I really didn't think I needed a visitor, when I just wanted to be alone because I handle crisis well alone. But when she showed up with her 2 blueberry muffins and her being, her presence, it was priceless. There was another time a friend just said, I'm showing up because she knows me very well. She said, I'm going to be in the foyer of the hospital when you walk in the door. Just tell me what time you're planning on coming. I'm going to get there, and I'm going to be there when you get there. So I'm just showing up. And I was like, you don't have to do that. You really don't have to do that. And she's like, I love you. Goodbye. When I walked through the foyer, walked through the sliding doors and into the foyer of the hospital, there she was, and this is all she did. This is what she did. She said nothing. She said no words. She went like this. She opened her arms. This tiny, beautiful friend of mine with her small frame and my 5'9" frame. And she engulfed me in the biggest hug. That hug was full of so much unconditional love and grace and shared support and meaning that I just sunk. I literally sunk into her arms because her arms were a safe place. There were no words exchanged in those moments. There was, because it didn't need it. I just relaxed. She calmed my nervous system down. I started crying, which I hadn't done. And it just set my feet on a solid path for the rest of the tough day that was ahead of me. I would not have thought I needed it. I wouldn't have invited it, but I needed it more than I ever knew. So these small gestures are going to make all the difference in our households, in the hallways of our home, out into the marketplace. So what small gestures can you create and develop and place into a new daily rhythm? Is it just softening the tone of your voice when you are stressed and you want to be angry and yell or say something smart or sarcastic? Is it just dropping off some blueberry muffins on a friend's porch with a note that says, you're not alone, I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you? What might a small gesture be? To you, it might be small, but to another person, it might mean their entire sanity. Because I know my friend's hug that day, it recharged my mental health. It recharged my sanity level. And I was able to push the button on the elevator and go up to the ICU. So what small gestures do you possess? They don't cost any money. They may cost time and energy, but they don't have to cost any money. So, dance in the rain. Enjoy the little things in life. So our intention is I mindfully notice the simple beauty that is along my pathway today. You might have a service-filled intention. Today, I make blueberry muffins or banana bread or chocolate chip cookies. So there's just 3 of my specialties. I make banana breads for 2 of my neighbors and write a note of encouragement. Yeah. Today, I put a $10 Starbucks card or Chick-fil-A or whatever's popular in your neck of the woods in a note, and I put it in the mailbox for the mailman or mailwoman. Today, I make the world a better place by smiling and making eye contact, because you really can't see the smiles in the mask, but you can see that it turns up your face a little bit. You can smile with your eyes, I know you can. So there's our intention 5. I hope that it blesses you as much as it blesses me, and that corporately, as we unite here in the Stronger Everyday community and we make decisions to live life with more intention, that we know that the world's going to be brighter because we're walking out into it, that we're carrying light and love. See you next time.